Michael, what age did your dad become a mobster by? What age did he become a made man or get into that life?
The oldest living man in America, my dad, he's been a made man for over 68 years. So he was in his, he was in his 30s.
33 when he became, so 32, 33 when he became a made man.
Correct.
Now, does that mean he wasn't involved in mob life prior to that? Because you don't just become a made man your first year. Was he part of it for about 10 years or so?
My grandfather was not a made guy, but he was very respected by a lot of made guys.
Got it.
He just didn't want to be that.
Got it.
My father was one of, he had three brothers. They were all kind of street guys, but my dad was the only one that aspired to be part of that life. My dad was an amateur boxer. He was a tough guy, street guy. And he was recruited by the mob, and he wanted to be a part of it. And so he went through the thing and took the oath like me.
Michael, I think what would be very interesting is for us to do something with you and Sonny, you and your dad. If we sat down and we did an interview there, that would be a whole different story, because he's still, based on what you're telling me, he's healthy, he can still talk, his brain works the same as before, and he can still process issues. That'd be a very interesting person to be talking about.
Well, remember, he goes back to the days of Luciano and Costello.
Oh my gosh.
He'll even tell you about Capone, because he was younger then, but he knew Capone came out of New York.
So he knows he did stuff with Capone?
Absolutely. Well, he knew him. I'm not saying, I don't know exactly what he did, but he knew him. I asked my dad, I'm gonna tell you this. My dad was, he got so much publicity in his 60s. Now, he wasn't the main guy around, okay? There was a lot of guys doing it. Columbo, everybody was around. But for some reason, they targeted my dad. And I got to tell you this story. So I went to him one time. I said, Dad, why you? Why? There was a lot of guys around. Why did they pick you? He said, my mom had passed away 5 years ago. And he said, I never wanted to tell you this. I don't want to disrespect your mom, but now that your mom has passed away, I'm going to tell you. I said, what? He said, I was dating Marilyn Monroe. Kennedy fell in love with her, Bobby Kennedy. He was the Attorney General at the time. She made him understand that she was in love with my father. From that point on, Robert Kennedy targeted my dad because of the Marilyn Monroe. Went after him like crazy. Now, sometimes my dad will, I'm wondering, okay, Dad, you're trying to make, but it made sense. I said, Dad, you telling me? He says, I swear to God.
So your dad was with Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah, and he got a little bit more graphic when he told me the story. I'm not going to repeat it here. But yeah, and then, I'm starting to think, and I said, where did you meet her? Now I start questioning him. He says, I met her at the Store Club. That was the hot place back then, right? Costello had a piece of it. And I said, okay, tell me how it happened. He'd tell me the whole setup and everything else. And because Hoover wasn't targeting mob guys back then.
That's right. He was a friend because you had information on him on the inside.
I had information. And he was bisexual, and he got caught and blah, blah, blah. So he never went after guys because they held it over his head.
He actually said there is no mob, is what he said.
He said there is no mob, right? But Kennedy was a different story. And he targeted my dad for that reason. You know what? Sometimes I think my dad, but I believe this one. I absolutely believe it because I put it two together. I did my little research. It was true.
So you can brag. I mean, it's pretty impressive to be able to brag that your dad hooked up with Marilyn Monroe. Let me tell you, that is impressive. I got to know next time, I got to get your dad the first issue of Playboy magazine and send it to him and say, look, here's a reminisce about who you used to be back in the day. So what a story, by the way.
Well, let me tell you this.
You know what? I love for him to tell that story. I love to hear him tell me that.
My dad's a great storyteller. And I'm going to tell you this. He has never done an interview in his life.
He's never done an interview in his life.
So if we did it, it would be an absolute first. 101-year-old mobster, the oldest living guy, a legend in his own right, has never said, never did an interview, never said more than 5 words to the press. That was it.
And rumor has it, your dad went through a lot. I mean, he really, he was a brutal guy when it came down to it. He didn't hesitate for a second.
No, my dad was, he's a dying,
I've read numbers about it. The number is pretty up there. He doesn't have a small number.
He was the last of a dying breed, but I'll tell you one thing I respect. My dad, they can put him in front of a firing squad. He's dying with his boots on. They'll never get him. He'll never say a word. He'll never give up that life. He took that oath seriously.